The same parents who cut me off at 18 were smiling at me across a polished courtroom table, as if nothing had ever happened. Their hands were folded, their posture relaxed, confident. After all, my billionaire grandfather was gone, and they believed his entire empire was finally within reach. I sat there silently, my pulse steady, listening to my mother whisper, "Of course, we'll manage everything for you, Naomi." Like I was still a child. Like I hadn't survived years without them. Like I hadn't learned exactly who they were. They didn't ask how I felt. They didn't apologize. They didn't even pretend to remember the night they told me I was on my own, with nothing but a suitcase and a locked front door behind me. To them, this wasn't a reunion. It was a transaction. They were already spending the money in their heads. $3.8 billion they thought I was too weak to control. What they didn't know was that my grandfather had planned for this moment. I grew up in a house where money was never discussed as a limitation, only as a reward. From the outside, my family looked perfect. Large home, private schools, dinners where my parents spoke proudly about values and discipline. People admired them. Neighbors complimented how well-raised we were. No one ever questioned whether love inside that house came with conditions. But it did. In our family, affection was earned. Approval had a price tag. And money wasn't just currency, it was leverage. My older brother, Daniel, learned that early. He was everything my parents admired. Confident, outspoken, endlessly certain of his own importance. Even when he failed, it was framed as potential. When he succeeded, it was proof that my parents had done everything right. At dinner, Daniel talked. My father listened. When Daniel bragged about business ideas he barely understood, my father nodded like he was hearing a future CEO speak. When he talked about wanting more money, more power, more recognition, my mother smiled proudly, as if ambition itself were a moral virtue. I sat across from them, quietly pushing food around my plate. I wasn't rebellious. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't reckless. I was observant, thoughtful. Asked questions instead of accepting answers I didn't believe in. And somehow that made me the disappointment. Whenever I spoke about books I loved or ideas that interested me, my mother tilted her head and said, "That's nice, Naomi," in a tone that made it clear the conversation was already over. My father barely looked up. To them, curiosity wasn't strength, it was inefficiency. The real divide became impossible to ignore once money entered the picture. Daniel turned 17 and received a brand new car, parked in the driveway with a bow on the hood. Everyone laughed and took photos. I remember my mother hugging him and saying, "This is an investment in your future." When my 18th birthday came around, there was no car. No celebración. Just a quiet reminder that I needed to start being realistic. Daniel's college tuition was paid without question. Mine came with conditions. What's your plan? What's the return? What if you don't finish? When I asked, carefully, quietly, why things were so different, my father's face hardened. "Daniel understands the real world," he said. "You're too emotional, too sensitive. You expect things to be handed to you." That was the first time I realized something fundamental.